Council member, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Happy holidays.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's get right into it, council member. What do you think of City of Yes?
I think that the proposal, as it was first presented to the council, needed a lot of help. But I applaud the leadership of Speaker Adams in putting the counter proposal of City for All in place. For my community, the things that were on the line, where we already had gone through a rezoning. So where are the pockets of opportunity for development really in my community? And then will that development further push out and displace people? Or will it be development that will actually yield affordable housing? At the end of the day, the investments that are coming into our communities by way of the $5 billion that include, anti-harassment and tenant protections, legal services money to make sure NYCHA is intact are the issues that my constituents every single day are asking me about. And so that's preventative investments into our community. And it is in line with our mission to keep our community housed. And so the impact to my district is minimal, but the investment in my district will be an investment that I think will protect tenants going into the future.
So what would you say to this? A lot of Dominicans have left Northern Manhattan to the Bronx because of the rent, right, and the cost of living. Do you think this proposal, obviously it's a lot, there's a lot more than just that, right? Yeah. Wages and your labor chair as well.
Exactly.
We could have a day-long conversation about this. Do you think this somehow moves the needle in the right direction in terms of keeping people in your community, or allowing them the opportunity to stay there if they choose to?
I think that the investments that are coming will be beneficial in halting some of the displacement pressures that we see, because those investments are targeted towards legal services, which is what we most need to arm our people with representation, so that when landlords try to get them out, when private equity firms are buying up blocks in my district, they have a way of protecting themselves. But by way of the creation of affordable housing, it's 80,000 units over 15 years, which really shakes out to about 100 units, if that, per district. Is not going to be, the end or cure all. But I think that 100 families that are housed are 100 families that we can move out of shelter. So every little thing helps, right? And like you said, it's a collaborative effort.
Councilmember, it seems like there was a good working understanding between the executive and the council in this case, right? It was a tough, contentious vote, slim, but it still passed, right? Kudos to the leadership on both sides. What do you think of this new charter proposal the mayor's putting up with Deputy Mayor Richard Bury pertaining to land use, returning to Europe? What is your sense? Because it's been a fraught relationship. Let's call it like it is, between the council and the executive, several veto overrides, right?
Yeah.
From Mastro appointments. It's been really tough.
It's been contentious. Look, the role of the council is to be the checks and balance. I will say of this commission, just looking at the names and the resumes of some of the folks that have been already announced that will be part of the commission, it seems like they are people that know government and know the levers of government that need to be pushed on behalf of the people. Richard Bury is someone I respect. However, any attempts to curtail the council's powers, I will be opposed to. There is a reason why the council has land use powers, because we are the checks and balance to the mayor. The mayor appoints the city planning commissioner. The mayor appoints the head of the EDC. These are our development arms for the city of New York. The council, though, our powers to be able to dictate what happens in our communities is not a coincidence. We know our districts. We know what our districts need. So I would be opposed to a commission coming in and trying to curtail our powers. By the way, I also feel that in this case, with him announcing the commission right after the City of Yes vote, he's sending a loud and clear message to the council that no matter how much good faith we employ when we negotiate with him, at the end of the day, he's coming in, and by him I mean the mayor, he's coming in and playing his own set of cards and putting them on the table. I think it is distasteful to announce a new commission to deal with land use power when he just showed the ability of the administration and the council to negotiate a package that makes sense for everyone.
Interesting. Council member, are you interested in being speaker?
I am. My name is out there. I am floating my name. I am having those conversations with my colleagues. Look, I am in my 8th year as an elected official. It has flown by. My almost 20 years in government. I think we have a track record of representing for our communities. And I think that council members that are going into their last term like me should put their names out there. We should have the conversation about what a city could look like under our leadership. A lot can happen in a year. A lot can happen in 6 months. And so we are exploring those conversations, and I am giving the respect to my colleagues to make the decisions about what is the future of the council and of our city that we want to look at.
Labor had a lot to do with the last speaker's race, right? Obviously, one union went with one member, but that also impacted the outcome because that other unions were upset that that one union sort of broke off the coalition. What have your conversations been so far with the labor leaders throughout the city? What would you say about that? How have those conversations gone so far?
Look, I think that one of the things that Speaker Adams' ascension to the speakership showed is that pretty much anything can happen, right? The rules that have traditionally existed for the speaker's race could change in an instant. In this case, I'm privileged to be able to be the labor chair in the council, to hold those relationships with our partners in organized labor for years. Even as a staffer, these relationships have been intact. So I feel like I'm in a great place to continue to have the conversation with labor leaders across our city. Right now, as we go into a new administration, labor leaders need more than ever allies on their side, because we know that the next administration that is coming in will not be labor friendly, and that workers in our city are depending on us to stand up for them. And that's the work that I've been doing. So I'm looking forward to continuing.
I want to ask you a question of someone on the outside looking in. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I like to do with this platform is debunk gossip and what's real and what's not, and afford the person the opportunity to answer the question.
For sure.
And rather than leave it into this, into the ether of, woulda, coulda, shoulda, or hypotheticals. The hotel bill. Now, this particular union, right, in the past went and had another supported another person in the last cycle for speaker. You are the labor chair. Why did you own that bill and or push that bill?
Yeah, I can't speak to why the sponsor of that bill was chosen or not, because I wasn't part of those conversations. As you know, in the council, we have this first in time rule where an idea is put in and whoever puts it in first kind of has ownership over that issue. But what I can tell you is that I became a co-prime sponsor of that bill. Although there are issues with the bill, as I understand it from some of the private sector partners, I believe that the bill is a worker safety bill. And from the stats that we have been getting about things that are occurring in hotels across the city, I thought it was important to put my name on it, to put my mark on it, and to support the bill. Because at the end of the day, we want workers in our city to be safe. It was a personal fight for me. My aunt is a retired HTC worker, a Dominican woman who worked in one of those hotels downtown. And eventually she had to retire because the job took a toll on her physical health. Right? They're exposed to a lot. And I think it is important for those protections to exist for all of these workers. And that's why I supported the bill. Would I have loved to carry the bill? Absolutely. But I'm grateful that we got it done. And I'm grateful for the partnership with HTC and the conversations that we had in terms of trying to craft a bill that took into account some of the different dynamics at the end of the day.
Council member, there was a story written recently going back to what's fact, what's fiction, about DOT commissioner and former council member Adonis Rodriguez running for your seat and or running against you. And you were sort of forceful in your response. Obviously, you didn't name names. What do you make of that?
Well, listen.
And what would prompt that?
Well, listen, I'm sitting in the seat. And so, therefore, it is on me to defend the seat. I, as you know, Roberto, we go way back.
Yes, we do.
I worked for the commissioner. I was his chief of staff for 5 years. I ran the commissioner's reelection campaigns when he was running for council. So as I said to someone over the weekend, his achievements have been mine. On a personal level, I have a lot of love and respect for the commissioner. However, I will not be silenced, and I will not be intimidated, and I will not be pushed out of a seat that I am sitting in. And so I really do hope that the commissioner focuses on the job of leading the biggest transportation agency in the nation, as he often says, and does not run for council, because it would put us, especially as a community, as a Dominican community, it would put us in opposing sides in this fight. I think he had his tenure as a council member. He was able to make his mark and leave his mark on the institution that I now serve. And now it is my turn to do that. and I'm not done yet. And so I have 4 more years. If my community will be I would be so honored if my community elects me for my last term. And that is who I'm convincing that I can continue to do this job. It is my community.
Council member, what do you say to people, and this is what I hear and read, that you are not in touch with the Dominican community in Northern Manhattan, that you are a lefty, that you are anti-police, that you're a progressive, and that doesn't speak to sort of the moderate or potentially moderate leanings of the community in Northern Manhattan?
Well, listen, I find that hilarious. You want to know
why?
Why? Because I am a daughter of the Dominican community, right? And I represent not only Dominicans that are my parents' generation, but also Dominicans that are my generation. I would ask the people that say that to look at my numbers. To look at my numbers from when I was first elected to the state assembly, and to look at my track record in the assembly, which has always been a progressive track record. Then look at my numbers when I came down to council, and look how I've been able to increase not only voter turnout, but also voter support. In 2023, I garnered 89% of the vote in my primary. And so I would argue to those folks that my community is telling me with open arms and open hearts that they support me in every election that I've ever run. And so I am someone who governs really, really close to the community. And the issues that I stand up for are the issues I've always stood up for. What are they? Dignified housing, making sure our children have access to education, workers' rights. Those are the issues that I've always stood up for. Immigrant rights. Those are my issues. The issue of public safety is one where I have clearly said, and you could come to my district and talk to the leaders of my local precincts. I have a wonderful relationship with the leaders in my local precinct and wonderful relationships with members of the NYPD. However, I believe that as a city, we need to look at where investments are going. We need to make sure that we're investing in people and in the needs of people, and that investment should be equitable. That's what I've said in terms of the NYPD budget. And in terms of safety, my position has always been we need to work together and create trust. And trust comes when there is accountability. And so I've been very vocal about the issue of accountability.
What would prompt the challenge? Where is this coming from?
I have no idea where it's coming from. What I could tell you is that there are people, and it's not people in the community, but there are people that could say, oh, she's the co-vice chair of the Progressive Caucus. Her ideals are more left than we'd like.
And your colleague, Councilmember Pierina Sanchez, is also facing a primary. And
I would also call into question the support of women in politics, right? For the first time in the history of the Dominican community, we have Dominican women leaders, and that should be respected and that should be applauded. By the way, Pierina Sanchez is one of the most brilliant people, period, I have ever met. We are lucky to have her.
So you think some of this smells of sexism?
Absolutely.
Now, here's the thing. Write the ad for me. Write the mailer for me.
The mailer
why should people stick with the incumbent, Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa? Give me 5 bullet points of accomplishments you would put on a mailer right now.
Perfect. The first thing I will tell you, I am a daughter of my community. I represent the needs of the people and have been fighting for those needs for decades, whether I was elected in elected office or not. The second thing I will tell you, my office, you walk into my office right now, my district office right now, there is a line out the door. More than 90 people are serviced at my office every single day. And at the end of the day, elected officials, we are here to give access to the people to government services. And I am doing that every single day. I have one of the best constituent services team, period. Third thing, as I said, in the council, I have been standing up for legislation that protects workers. At the end of the day, when you look at the mandate that the country sent in the last election, it has to do with people's pockets. It has to do with economic instability. And as the chair of the Civil Service and Labor Committee, I've been doing just that, opening up promotional opportunities in our city agencies, talking about the vacancy rates that are at an all-time high, and making sure that there's access to jobs and employment and education for our children. And finally, I'll say this. I think that you would be hard-pressed to find a council member that speaks directly to her community. In my case, I not only say that, I launched a co-governance effort to make sure that my community, besides the community boards, which I support, but besides the community boards, have direct access to me as their council member. And besides that, The council has allowed me to bring millions of dollars into my community through discretionary funding. I've done that in an equitable way, in a transparent way, and in a way that my community can go on a digital map that we in-house created and look to see where we've done those investments. There's way more to come, and I'm asking my community to give me the opportunity, the same way they've given all the men that have represented my district before me, the opportunity to finish executing that vision.
Council member, that all of that is wonderful. How much money do you have in the bank, and how's the fundraising going?
Yeah.
Or you have to be prepared, right?
Of course, absolutely.
Maybe something, maybe not.
Exactly. So right now we're fundraising, right? We're in the middle of fundraising. We just had a fundraiser last week. We're continuing to fundraise. You will see in the next period that we are meeting our fundraising goals. Right now, no one is registered against me. And so I have not qualified for matching funds in yesterday's decision. But if someone does come, we have met the match to meet the matching funds criteria for the city of New York. So our bank account will have the money necessary to run a campaign that it is not only competitive, but that is centered in the people. And so that's what we're going to do.
Councilmember, I know you have other things to run to or tend to. Anything you want to add to the conversation? Anything I forgot to ask you that you want to mention?
No, I'll just tell you, Roberto, that it is so good to see the Perez Notes up and running. As soon as I saw it on Instagram, I logged in, I listened to you. You brought me back to the days of an anxious staffer waiting to figure out what's happening.
I want you to give me my credit though. I was always independent.
Oh, absolutely.
For better or worse, right?
You always have been. And you know what else about you I love? You always have picked up the phone. Even when you agreed, even when you disagreed, there was always access.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And that's what I hope to continue to do more of, is just to create a platform for people to speak and to give people the opportunity to correct the record.
Absolutely.
A lot of this business is predicated on innuendo and backdoor and talking, blah, blah, blah. And this is just like, okay, let's get to the facts. So that's what I hope to accomplish. I wish you the best.
Thank
Continue
you.
success and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you.
Hopefully this won't be the last time.